Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe Bandel, and I am the last Rosicrucian. Uh, Today, we're going to be talking about something that's really exciting because it's tying a lot of things together. I'm just going to call it the lost secret of the heart. Maybe I can kind of explain why why that's a good thing. But it's really one of the things, the first thing we're going to talk about is going after your dream. And as Gaia is going through the ascension process, the ability to go after your personal dream becomes more important than ever. However, the process of going after your dream is kind of involved. And maybe this is going to be like a ramble because I'm kind of throwing it together as I go along here. But have you ever read a book and then later you read it the second time or even the third time and you got something out of it that you didn't get out of it the first time? Or you saw a movie and you saw that movie the second and third time and you got things out of that movie that you didn't get the first time? That's one of the things that we're dealing with when you talk about trying to live the dream. Um, we just can't penetrate deeply enough. It happens to all of us. We can't. There's a lot of things that just don't soak in the first time. I remember last winter and last spring. I don't know why, but I decided, oh, I'm going to watch reruns of The Virginian, which is a Western that was on when I was a kid. And so I started watching these episodes, and I was totally amazed. When I was a kid, I didn't experience those movies that way. I didn't see those movies that way. They were a lot richer and they were a lot more meaningful to me as an adult than they were as a young boy. And that's why even the mystery schools, they go through and they essentially say you got to learn things one layer at a time because the brain just can't grasp it the first time around. And this topic of this video is like that because what I'm about to share, I think in a lot of ways we've heard it many times in many ways, and we just kind of like go, oh, roll our eyes and go, oh yeah, that makes sense or whatever. But it never really penetrates, and it never penetrates because for some reason we just refuse to go there. So it's likely, I'm going to just say likely, you're going to watch this video and it's likely you might just blow it off. But what I'm going to try to share really is deep, deep, and very powerful. And what it involves is the suggestibility, how suggestible we are, and how suggestible the universe is. And the other point is how self defeating we are. And lastly, how we keep other forces, other people, other things, keep trying to draw us away from going for our dream. So all of this is a little bit confusing, but I'm going to take Dion Fortune as an example because she's one of the experts that kind of brought this up, came out and said it, that I was exposed to it. And she was explaining a lot of the things that mystery schools or occult schools or traditions uh, did in their work. And she expressed some of this stuff in novels, and she expressed some of this in nonfiction work. But essentially, I'm just going to kind of paraphrase things, put things in my own words. What's important in magical training or whatever you want to say, uh, empowerment that way, working consciously in an altered state. All right. So there's two things. There's an altered state and there's working consciously. You work consciously to uh, program yourself, self-programming. So, okay, we got the three things. There's the altered state, uh, the self-programming. I mean, okay, and because and what it's trying to do is it's put everything in the subconscious. Put everything in the subconscious. You don't want the conscious mind to deal with it. You put it in the subconscious. You get somebody in an altered state, and back in the day, they'd get somebody in an altered state, and there would be somebody that would work with them and do essentially what's called a guided meditation. In today's world, with recordings, we can actually create our own meditations to put us in a altered state of our choice and self-program ourselves, which essentially is what I do in my meditation videos that I've done. And so the bottom line, and Dion Fortune is one of them, but there's other outfits that would say pretty much the same thing. That's where you get the change. That's where you get the transformation. That's where things work. Um, Neurolinguistics, I knew a person who lives in the area that did neurolinguistics training, neurolinguistics processing. He took the training to be an international trainer, I believe it was, and he was saying that the graduation ceremony for that, when he went through it, I think it took place in New Mexico or something like that. But they actually walked on a bed of hot coals barefoot without getting burned. If and I've spoken about that before, but it sounds incredible. The thing is, I recently read a book by H. Spencer Lewis, who is the imperator of the Rosicrucian Order A Mark in the United States, a book called Mental Poisoning, in which they did tests where they would put people in an altered state. That's hypnosis, basically, put people in an altered state. And tell them that they're drinking a glass of cold water. And they would, after they did that, they would immediately put a thermometer in their mouth. And according to the understanding of the person in the hypnotic or the altered state, whether they thought it was ice water or whether it was just cold water, they had a temperature difference inside their mouth of up to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm like, this is crazy. How can you get like an ice cube in your mouth when you're just visualizing uh, drinking ice water? Uh, I mean, we've all heard how you can a hypnotized person you can like touch them with a pencil and say it was a cigarette or something, and then they get a burn blister. But no, this is something totally different than that. And what it brings up as a possibility, it brings up the true power of what can happen in an altered state when everything goes into the subconscious. Now, the subconscious, and I'm just going to review a little bit. The subconscious deals with things like your heartbeat, blood pressure, your breathing cycle, the normal regulation of the body. In other words, it's all happens by itself. It's those things that we're not consciously aware of, they just take care of us to the best of their ability. But there's a portion of the subconscious that we can program it, we can tell it what we want, and it will override its natural functions. This is kind of the key to what not only the path to our dreams, but why we can't achieve our dreams. And I'll be getting to that. The self programming aspect of the subconscious. Because what we believe, we react to. What we believe gives us the commands on how to respond. And a lot of times we're self defeating. If we think I'm not worthy or you feel guilty, what happens is we program our subconscious in a way that will perpetuate those feelings because the subconscious is has no moral judgment about whether we love ourselves or whether we hate ourselves. It just says, okay, that's what you want. We'll try to get it for you. That's what you want. We'll try to get it for you. And there's a lot of evidence in the metaphysical sciences or whatever that the cosmic is the same way, that the universe is the same way. It is suggestible and it says, this is what you want. We'll try to get it for you. And if you're wanting things that are self destructive, it's going to get them for you. So, and if you think about it, what complicates things even more is we have been programmed since babyhood, since we were babies. We've been programmed with both positive things and negative things, depending on our home situation, depending on the type of experiences that we've had. Now, you can have a bad accident, and that programs automatically into the subconscious to where you have a fear of certain things, and it causes life changing where you avoid dealing with certain things because it triggers some of that fear through a past experience. Or if you've been told all your life that you're lazy or that you're fat or that you're clumsy, you start to believe that. And so that's what you do. It's a self fulfilling mechanism. And if in reality, in truthfulness, if we want to achieve our dream in life, one of the first things that we have to do is we've got to weed out somehow confront and weed out our own self-defeating tendencies. One of my own self-defeating tendencies was always where I would stop before I reached the finish line. So it was extremely difficult for me to finish anything. And why was it? It's kind of the brain does crazy things. One of the reasons why I was that way is because if I actually finished something, it means I would be committed to that. I would I would have to, and it doesn't. But in my mind, I was saying, okay, then I'm committed to that. That means a responsibility, and I did not want to accept responsibility. So the best way of doing that was I'm going to try this up to the very to where I have to make a commitment. Now I'm going to go try something, drop that, try something else, go up to that point to where I need to make a commitment, back off. And it was just a way that I had unconsciously, subconsciously, of avoiding responsibility in my life. As a result, it was not very conducive to being successful, commercially successful or whatever that way, because I keep dabbling and never really become proficient on something. That's just an example of the self-defeating tendencies, and we all have them, and they are devilishly difficult to confront, to bring up. Probably the most powerful way that I know of to bring out, to explode the shadow aspect, because that's what we're talking about, the shadow self, is through what I call rupturing the astral planes, which is the daily generation of raw energy to the extent, the quantity where overnight it causes the astral planes to rupture because of the energy, and it ruptures kind of like lancing a wound. It just kind of explodes and then it resets itself. And over a time, and we're talking, for me, it was a time of years, this process of rupturing the astral planes and resetting itself, uh, that at first it was something inside me. It was the weak spot that was inside me. So it was the wound that would rupture. It's where I wanted to achieve something. I wanted a goal or something like that. Boom, this would pop up and prevent it. Boom, it'd pop up and prevent it. It would come into awareness. I'd gain awareness of it. I'd get some healing from it by confronting it. Try again. Boom, okay. Now something else popped up that prevented me from achieving my goal or achieving my dream. So in the beginning, these were all self-defeating things that the only way that I knew of to really bring them into awareness was through this rupturing process. Uh, because they were buried so deeply, so emotional scarring, uh, mental scarring. Meditation would help bring some of it out. In fact, meditation, the energy ball type meditations, is a first stage. The rupturing process, a lot more severe, but after you've done a lot of the meditation work, the energy ball work, it becomes safe to kind of continue on with that. But what we're getting at is this is a whole mechanism for identifying and bringing into awareness our own self-destructive capacities, or what we're stuck on, what we're not recognizing as appropriate. And after you get to a certain stage, that rupturing process no longer happens inside, but it happens outside. And when it happens outside, what you're doing is you're trying for your goal, and all of a sudden something happens out there. Well, when that fails again, it fails because it ruptures, it doesn't allow you to achieve your goal. It forces you to confront reality and be more realistic about the actual reality of things. And gradually, if you continue doing it, you get to the point where, oh, okay, I'm starting to be successful at this kind of thing. An example I could talk about is trying to put out videos, or trying to uh, translate these stories that I put them out and put them out and put them out. And I'm not very successful, I guess, but you keep trying, and sooner or later, you come across a few people that are really appreciative, which brings up something I totally forgot about. I'm starting to do at least one video a week, maybe even more sometimes, on topics like this that I think are very useful and helpful to people. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I have some people that are patrons on my Patreon page that are being supportive of me. And just those few people that are being supportive of me are helping me to want to produce more of this material, because I'm feeling appreciated, which means I'm being more successful, and it's drawing me closer to my dream. So thank you very much if you are a patron. I really, really, really appreciate you, and that is why I'm doing videos like this. It's directly because of you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be putting out videos, not as many of them, and they wouldn't be specialized as much as what I'm doing with these. So anyway, thank you very much. But we'll get back into the subject here of self-programming. When you're programming, self-programming, you need to focus on the goal. You need to say, this is what I want to do. And if it doesn't work and it doesn't work, you keep getting that message, and you keep trying to alter something here or there. Because let's face it, uh, when you run into a brick wall, it usually means you're going in the wrong direction for some reason. There's something that you didn't get. You're not, it's not clicking. Because if you were going in the right direction, it would work. Even if you had to do a few little zigzags to finally get in the direction that you wanted, if you knew it. So there's a whole trial and error process where you're going through baby steps, you're getting more competent and then more polished to where you can actually become an authority on something. But we're bringing, and this all deals with programming the subconscious so that it's our entire self is going toward that goal, even when we're not consciously aimed at it. We're subconsciously going toward that goal. So the first, like I said, the first step, we have to clear out those self-defeating tendencies because they're going to pop up right away. Then we're going to have to deal with the reality, the physical actuality of how do you get, in most cases, if you're talking about the fulfillment of a dream, it's like it's got to be something that the rest of the world recognizes and wants to support itself because we usually live in a world with other people. And it's just like I said, these few people that are being patrons, they have, they mean so much. And so I'm responding to their support. That's kind of, that's, I'm trying to share a metaphysical reality here in ways that I'm thinking maybe it'll soak through this time. But here's the other thing. Everybody, every day, we are bombarded in our society. We're just bombarded by people and events and media that's trying to drag us away, that's trying to grab our attention, put us in an altered state where we're susceptible, where we're suggestible. And then it gives us its version of what, its version of, I don't want to say truth, it's programming. And it's incessant. There's no stopping it. And we have no adequate understanding of how pervasive this is. If you're watching a movie, when a Star Wars movie, or I'm age, showing my age by some of these stuff, but some of these Marvel movies or things like that, there's so much going on in the movie that we can't take it all in. That's why when you watch it two times or you watch it three times, you're going to notice things that you didn't notice the first time around. What happens when you go into overwhelm, when you can't soak it all in, it goes into the subconscious and it starts programming the subconscious. And it's the stories or the messages are going in as subliminal suggestions. It can be the news media. It's the same type of thing. Give you so much information that you can't take it all in, and all you end up doing is it shifts over to the subconscious. The subconscious starts taking it in, and if you hear it enough, you will believe it. And if you believe it, you will act upon it. And if you believe it, your subconscious is going to say, I'm going to try to make that real for you. So if you believe you need a certain medication, or you believe there's a threat for a certain illness or something like that, your subconscious is going in and it's saying, I'll try to make that real for you. You're worried about it? I'll give you a reason to be worried about it. I'm going to try to make your dream come true. You kind of get where I'm coming from on some of this stuff, the self-programming thing. Because here's the bottom line, and this is the thing that boggles the mind because it's so simple. It's so simple, we will not go there. And it's probably the point where I lose everybody because they just kind of like, okay, whatever. It's that simple. You find out what your passion is. You find out what your heart really loves and what makes you feel good, and you go for that, and you program yourself to that. You will be led to that. And it might be a winding road that you follow. But if you stay true to that dream, you will take baby steps. You'll go through the competency. You'll go through the you'll confront and deal with the self-destructive aspects. And eventually you will come out with a competency in achieving that dream. But only if you go for it. If you're listening to a narrative, this narrative or that narrative, and it puts you in an anger or an aggression or an opposition, it's going to be a waste. It's neutralizing. It's effectively zeroing out your forward momentum. You can't be in a fight. And everything's all these forces in our society are trying to take your energy and say, pay attention to me. I am the most important thing right now. The election is the most important thing right now. The world is going to hell right now. Da 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 da. This is what you got to do. You go for the dream. And every time you get pulled away, it's because it's hard enough to achieve your dream in life, but there are people out there who do it, are able to do it. And the only way they can do that is to remain true to their dream. Hopefully this makes sense a little bit. I've tried to, it's one of those things that it's just so simple that people don't get it. You got to watch what goes into your mind. You got to watch what you think. Not only watch, but you got to be aware of what you think. Am I being self-destructive? Am I allowing other things to take? Am I giving my power away to somebody else or something else so that it's taking my life force, it's taking my energy, and I don't have enough left to go to my dream? Anyway, this is enough for today. I hope this makes sense. And it's really so simple. That's why I say it's the untold secret of the heart, because the heart is where we live. The heart will guide us if we listen to the heart, that still small voice. It is a message of the internal authority instead of an external authority. Thank you very much. Uh, Feel free to comment, and also if you'd like to support me, think about being a patron as well. Thank you.